two-part episode featuring a terrific economic development discussion with three amazing guests. Victor Hoskins, President and CEO of the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority, Jack McDougall, President and CEO of the Greater Washington Board of Trade, and Ben Wu, who's the President and CEO of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. These gentlemen have known and worked with each other for a long time, and they are big-time leaders in economic development here in the Washington, D.C. region. I'm Tian Wong. I'm the CEO of Opus 8 and founder and host of the Big Idea CONNECTpreneur community, which is one of the world's largest communities of technology entrepreneurs and investors. Together with my co-host, Anthony Mellon, who is a serial entrepreneur, a leading startup attorney with Next, powered by Shulman Rogers, and also a venture capitalist with the Urban Us family of venture capital funds. This episode marks our one-year anniversary of the Monthly Blend monthly video podcast. Thank you for joining us. We'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners. The Monthly Blend was conceived by Anthony and me as a vehicle for real, action-oriented, and meaningful conversations around breaking down silos and driving innovation and entrepreneurship here in the Washington-Baltimore region. We have and we will continue to interview top game changers and stakeholders in our region with the goal of making this region a better place to live and to do business. Please be sure to subscribe at www.themonthlyblend.com. And here we go, part two of this two-part regional economic development discussion. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy. One question I have is branding. I know the three of you are very good at branding and selling, and a lot of efforts have been made in the DMV region in the past. You know, we've seen efforts from the 2030 group. I was on that working group board, the Greater Washington Partnership, Connected DMV. By the way, congrats on Connected DMV. We had Stu and his team on the show a few months ago, and what they're doing is amazing in terms of breaking down silos and creating real value for all of us residents here in the DMV. But those three groups they're multidisciplinary, multi-jurisdictional groups. They've undertaken these types of branding efforts of late, in the last 3 to 5 years. What are your thoughts on how the DMV should brand itself to drive more innovation and entrepreneurship to the region? For example, you mentioned Appian, Victor, which Matt Calkins is another Dartmouth guy. So thank you for that shout out. But, how do we get the Matt Calkins or the Tim Huangs? We saw this week that Tim, who's a friend of Ben and mine, he's going to go public through a SPAC merger. He started out as an entrepreneur. I know he's from this area, but how do we get guys like Matt and Tim to come to DC, to come to our region and, take advantage of all the great resources and intellectual property? Is it going to be a slogan? Is it more, kind of knitting together these alliances? What are your guys' visions? And I'd like to start with you, Jack, in terms of, where you see or how you think the region would best brand itself to attract these kind of innovation organizations.
So I think I would suggest there's a couple of things. One is I think it's sort of our own perspective of our region. I don't think that if you were to ask a lot of folks across our region that we really have a full understanding of what our region has and what our region's capable of. So I think that there's a need to do some internal branding and internal marketing, and I think efforts like Connected DMV and what, Victor's doing and what Ben are doing, with their regional economic development organizations and pulling those together, begin to get us there so that we can share some of these experiences and so that we're all speaking from a similar narrative, right? So that we understand what are our strengths and how do we get in those. And sometimes I think we kind of even undervalue ourselves. That's why I like to use that example of, $500 $500 billion, and if we were a country, we'd be competing with Sweden, right? So we need to start thinking differently about that. So I think that then puts us in a different conversation, if you will, as we're beginning to attract people. I think, and the federal government, as Ben points out too, particularly around life sciences and some of the other things that we do around cyber and different industries, is so critical to our region. But I think sometimes the federal government kind of overshadows the conversation. People sometimes still think of us as too much of a government town, but we haven't really been a pure government town in a long time. I've looked at some of the, recent indices out there, and, we have the 11th most vibrant startup ecosystem in the world here in DC. Right. So there's a lot of resources and assets here that we can put out there that would really begin to attract people. So I think it's bringing that knowledge to the conversation in new and different ways that we haven't done it in the past. And I do think, to Victor's point earlier too, I think Amazon gets everybody's attention. What were they thinking? What were they doing? Right. And so I think that opens up the door to some additional efforts there.
That's great. Jack, thank you for that. And I mean, Victor, is there a unifying message that we can present? You've been a leader. I know when you were deputy mayor of DC, I'd go out to South by Southwest. You'd have a nice DC house, but you'd invite all of the regional people in. I think you split costs, or you did great marketing and branding. It attracted a lot of attention. Hopefully it brought people to the district and to the region. But, so you've got some experience with branding. Is there a message or a slogan or some kind of a logo, or what are your thoughts on that?
So we've realized something, and this has happened in the last 5 or 6 years in the economic development industry, and you hear this more and more, and it'll be more and more prominent as time goes on. But talent is the new currency of economic development. Talent is the new currency of economic development. And that's not my quote. That's one of those Accenture gurus that threw that one out, one of the partners there. But the point is that the reason that we were able to attract Amazon was because of talent, not because of the talent that was just in Arlington, not because of the talent that was just in DC. It was because of the talent in the entire region and the pipeline of talent that the state of Virginia decided to drop $1 billion behind to double in the next 10, 15 years. That is why they came here. So what we've been doing really for the last year and 5 months now, we actually created a digital hub called workinnorthernvirginia.com. If you go to workinnorthernvirginia.com, you will see all the jobs that are currently available in Northern Virginia. Right now, it's about 162,000. When we started, it was 52,000. Actually, when we started the website in April of 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, we only had 2,500 jobs on there because we work with the companies to get the jobs on there. So as we went through this process, we went from working with 13 companies. We now work with 170 companies. We went to working from no recruiters. Now we work with 700 recruiters. We went from having no virtual career fairs, where we just had one last week at the National Museum, specifically for vets transitioning out of military. So we basically are using this digital hub to brand our region as the place for talent for companies, because we can sell place, they sell the jobs. We sell the place, they sell the jobs. And it's really been a real win for them and a real win for us. I will say, it's interesting. Our website, when we started out, I think our first month we had about 3,000 hits on the website. We now are up to somewhere around 40 to 50,000 a month. That's $500,000 a year, 400,000, $500,000 a year, which we're very excited about. When we tell our companies that, they excited because it's going after a different talent pool. We've gone from attending no college virtual for career fairs. This year, in 12 months, we will attend 35, one being Dartmouth, my alma mater, and others. What we do is we ask the companies, where do you want to get your talent from? We will go directly to that school. We did an event specifically with the Marshall School of Business at USC, virtually, specifically for one company, because that's what they asked for. We are trying to cater to the needs of talent. And I believe if we focus on talent, not just letting our companies know that we can bring talent to a website and get them to come here. By the way, when we first started the website, 80% of the traffic came from the DMV. Now only 15% of traffic comes from the DMV because we digitally market to other markets around the world. Jack has it right. We are in global competition, but it's not global competition for companies. It's actually global competition for talent. and you become the place for talent, where talent can have a lifestyle, where talent can have look, you can go to a winery in Loudoun County and you can work at a data center. I mean, where can you do that? Not very many places. And we have 4.7 times the computing power in Silicon Valley. That's a reality. So we're the center of data centers in the world. So if you want a lifestyle of wineries and data, come here. I mean, we're trying, and by the way, we've been letting these jurisdictions in Northern Virginia, all 10, sell their own brand. If you go to the website, you will see a section that you can go to any jurisdiction. And what are you looking for? What kind of lifestyle? Do you want to paddle on the river on the weekends? Do you want to be in the urban hip hub? Where do you want to be? And DC doesn't know this, but we're also marketing the jobs in DC because DC has many of our companies that are Northern Virginia. Our companies are everywhere. We got to drop the borders. But I think that I think that is really the thing that we want to emphasize. We're a place for talent where you can live and have a great life. We want to be a place for talent where you can grow and where you can learn. If you go to this website, there's also a section in there for retraining, reskilling. So we don't want to just have you now. We want to have you in the future when you want to change your life. So that's really what we've been focused on. And all 10 jurisdictions are deeply involved in this. And it's been great for the companies and great for us.
That is a really interesting comment. Talent is the new currency of economic development. And it makes sense because 20 years ago, you remember, guys would start a business in the DC region and they'd move to the Valley, or they'd move to New York because that's where the VCs were. That's where the talent was. We couldn't get enough coders from DC to work for them. But now I've seen fewer and fewer companies leave the region, but I see college graduates. I've got 2.5 graduates, and they want to live in New York. They want to live in the Valley. They want to live in Austin. So how do we brand DC to make it cool, Ben? Like, how do we get these kids to want to come to DC once they graduate? Because while we have great institutions here and we can keep a lot of those graduates here, with the economic growth that's projected, we're going to need to attract kids out of the Midwest, out of the Northeast, out of Southeast to come to DC and really consider us on a par with New York. And I agree, it's probably, you need money, you need talent, but talent if you bring the talent, then you'll bring the entrepreneurs, right? Because they need to go where the talent is. And then the VCs will follow everybody. Because if you got a great company, the investors will come in. But Ben, what are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more with Victor. Talent is, I think, where we need to make a priority in our branding because for us to be able to attract, even retain companies that are growing, we need to ensure them that we have a talent pipeline that will continue to fuel and sustain their growth. And towards that end, a component of talent retention and growth is this whole issue of inclusive economy. Because that's so important for us as a region as well, because we see what is going on around the country and the greater disparity, the economy between the haves and have-nots, people being priced out of locations, which means that the workforce is leaving and that companies then would be scrambling to try and to find that talent and keep them there. And what we're seeing in Washington is not as stark as, say, Silicon Valley, but there are trends that are somewhat alarming and ones that we should try as a region to try to address because we want all segments of our population to be able to take part in an economic recovery. And we do want to be able to take this crisis and create new opportunities where none may have existed, especially for displaced workers or underserved communities. And so that's why I'm so excited to be working with Victor as part of the regional economic development strategy to try to address these issues. We have some great thought leaders like Amy Liu with Brookings, who has laid out these issues. What I've tried to suggest to our regional peers is that if we can come together on a set of metrics that we can all be benchmarked on, then instead of us in Montgomery County just saying, okay, this is what we're going to measure ourselves on, then we can have a standard and aspirational goals that we can strive towards. And so, that may be the first step. And then seeing what we can do to support our jurisdictions, but also regionally to be able to support this inclusive economy that would lessen the disparity of income and job opportunities. Also, in doing so, allow for the housing issue not to be so a difficult issue where people have to commute great distances just to get to their job, especially in a post-pandemic world. People aren't going to want to travel and commute anymore. And being able to have good jobs that can rise a level of income for their families. So I think that to me is an exciting effort that we'll be undertaking, and that if we're successful, can also help brand Maryland, Montgomery County, Northern Virginia, DC, and the greater Washington area in a way that would attract a lot more people, and that will fuel the talent pipeline as well.
Hey, Tian, can I add something to that just real quick?
Sure.
So one thing, we haven't touched on this yet, but one thing that I think is really interesting when you talk about this region being cool, we have the highest concentration of nonprofit organizations of anywhere, right? And so we have organizations here that are grappling with big issues, climate change, social justice, and other types of things. And so, and those are issues that really resonate with a lot of, to Victor's point, yeah, talent. It's all about talent. That is the lifeblood of our economy. So that attracts a lot of younger people, right? Because it's mission oriented, and so if you think about that more broadly about, social entrepreneurship and environmental entrepreneurship, and where can you come and you can find the expertise and the coaching and the organizations that can really help you do that. I think if we tap into that even more effectively, that's going to help really build out that ecosystem in a way that's going to reap all sorts of different types of benefits, and then that, especially as we think about technologies and other things, when they start to link to some of those bigger mission-oriented problems, you're now creating a value proposition and a strategy that's nearly impossible to replicate. And continue to nurture that, it'll really grow and benefit this region.
And we have a huge advantage with
If I could just add on to Jack's point about nonprofits. In Montgomery County, we have the largest number of nonprofits in the state. We have over 700. And we are trying to, Jack, help the nonprofits make economic development a priority that also overlays with their mission as well. So we gave out $3.4 million for nonprofits, because what we've basically told them is not only are you job creators and job employers, we are also counting on you to help us create that inclusive economy, to create and sustain economic development. So we're trying to put the burden on them as well as to partner with us because we have these great assets and nonprofits that exist not just in Montgomery County, but throughout the region.
Right. We can't be vertical anymore. We have to be really horizontal, right? And we can't separate government from nonprofits from industry. And if you think about that pre-competitive landscape, we've got to continue to expand it and really build those partnerships. Ben, I agree fully. It's, a lot of those organizations are going to help us solve those other problems that then has a mutual benefit to the other types of organizations we're talking about. So it becomes a really integrated system, which is pretty interesting.
No, that's brilliant. I think we're almost out of time, but I have one final question for the three of you, which is, how do our viewers get involved with your organization? A lot of people are obviously tuning into us because we are trying to break down silos in the region, and a lot of people want to do good. And are there any top priorities that you might have with your organizations that people would get involved, and how can they get involved? Victor?
So the easiest way to get involved with my organization is really just to go to our website, fceda.org, fceda.org. And there you will find information that relates to all of our initiatives. I mean, I did mention the talent, but I didn't talk about the diverse talent that our companies are asking for. We began our effort working with 13 universities, 7 historically Black colleges. Now we work with 100 universities and 40 historically Black colleges. We work with the National Society for Professional Black Engineers, for Society for Professional Hispanic Engineers, Women in Code. We've gone out and made an effort to get a diverse pool. So if they want to get involved in an organization, you can find and discover all of that on our website. And if you're looking for a location, it's always a nice place to find out information about our real estate.
That's great.
Can't help but sell.
No, absolutely. Jack, how about you? How do people get involved with Greater Washington Board of Trade?
Yeah, so same with Victor. Go to our website. It's bot.org. And there you'll find a listing of all of our programming and other opportunities to engage on these topics and issues. And, always looking to broaden out and get more and more people involved, because that's the only way we're going to get this to work. The more it's all hands on deck. We can't afford to do it any other way.
Absolutely agree with that. How about you, Ben? How do people get involved with Montgomery County EDC?
Let me also make a pitch for our website as well. It's thinkmoco, M-O-C-O, thinkmoco.com. And on the front of our website right now, you will see a link to our economic advisory panel. So we convened a blue ribbon commission of 20 members of the industry sector and top executives within Montgomery County. And we asked them to create consensus priorities for all stakeholders, elected officials, government, industry, nonprofits, and to try to be able to get a sense of how we should move forward. Because in Montgomery County, we have no shortage of recommendations and plans. So what we want to do was be able to create a consensus on what those top line priorities should be and those opportunities that we need to seize. And so the Economic Advisory Panel report called Connecting the Dots is on our website. I would recommend that people take a look at it because we're going to embrace as an organization those priorities. And that's one way in which the public and the community can understand where we want to go to see how they can help us get to that point. Also, we have been tasked by the Montgomery County Council to take on the Montgomery County Comprehensive Economic Strategy. It was moved from the county executive's responsibility to MCDC. And so we will be publishing that at the end of the year. So that's another blueprint, in a sense, of a path forward that we intend to take. So the community may be interested in that as well. But take a look at those plans, take a look at our website, and we'd be happy to engage all stakeholders because, as Jack and Victor have said, it takes all of us working together to be able to overcome some of the challenges and then to make our region as strong as it can be.
Yeah, I want to thank all three of you, Victor, Jack, Ben. I'm proud to be a resident and a business owner here in the DMV, and you guys are the ones who are making us proud because of the collaborative nature of your work. You guys care, you have tremendous passion, and I'm just absolutely thrilled to be part of this whole thing and just to watch you guys do everything. So congratulations on all your success, and thank you so much for your leadership. And I'd like to turn it back over to Anthony, who has some closing remarks. Anthony?
Great. Yeah, on behalf of TN and I as well, I'd like to thank Victor and Jack and Ben for joining us on the monthly blend today, and also to thank each of you for your leadership, for your vision, and for the tremendous work and effort you've put in breaking down silos and connecting the DMV as a regional force and building it towards this global powerhouse. And so again, with that, thank you for being on the show today.
Great.
Thank you both so much. Appreciate it.